Welcome to Crush Your Mountain Personal Growth, where we shine a light on the strength, spirit, and strategies behind life's most powerful transformations. I'm Alanda Brayford, your assistant coach. This is why you need to hear Alexia's story. Because sometimes the only thing standing between you and greatness is the mountain you dare to crush. Imagine being told you can't, that your heart, your lungs, your body will never match your dreams. At 13, Alexia Clonda was given limits, exercise-induced asthma, a heart murmur. But fate intervened. A coach, a glance, a new game, squash. What followed wasn't just a battle on the court, but a war within her own body. Infections, injuries, years lost to pain, metal poisoning, even septicemia after hip replacements. Each setback should have been the end. But Alexia chose otherwise. Through grit, discipline, emotional healing, and an elusive Russian breathing technique, she defied every diagnosis. She didn't just recover, she conquered. If you've ever stood at the foot of your own mountain, doubting your power, let Alexia's journey remind you the strength to rise is already inside you. So subscribe and share. And stay tuned, because today, Henry sits down with a woman who shows us all you don't just climb your mountain, you crush through it.
Alexia, welcome to Crush Your Mountain Personal Growth.
Thank you so much, Henry. Absolute joy to be here.
Well, you bring the joy with you. Okay, so it's amazing to have you with us. And now, just the best thing to do, okay, is to really kind of just tell my people your incredible story. Where has your health been? What have you done with your health? And where are you now?
Yeah. Well, I was behind the eight ball when I was a toddler. At 10 months of age, I was diagnosed with asthma and a heart murmur. So I was put in a cocoon. So I hated sport, loathed sport, but so I was loath to do anything physical, actually. And then at 13 years of age, my friend said, I'm going to go play a game of squash. And I went, what squash? And she said, come. And I did like playing cricket with the boys at lunchtime, but I only liked batting, and I didn't do any running. Just like the bat and ball. So I went along to the local squash club, and the manager there said, first hit, he said, you've got some great hand-eye coordination. I went, okay. And he said, if you live, breathe and eat squash, I'll help you become a world champion. I thought for about 2 seconds. I went, sure, why not? And that's what started my squash career. It was not on the radar. I actually wanted to be a doctor because from a very early age of 5, I knew that I wanted to help people. I can remember going out in the street, with my parents, and if I saw somebody that was upset, crying, or disabled, or just didn't look happy, I said to God, please help that person. Please help them. Please help them.
Wow.
And that was my first talk with God. And I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Now, the doctors had diagnosed you with an illness, and you felt this illness from an early age. Did you experience a lot of pain?
Discomfort, and I was forever taking medications. This horrible syrup, it was disgusting.
Yeah.
And I was always on antibiotics because I always had an infection. Always. I was sniffling, I was coughing, I was wheezing, glandular fever, sore throats, sinus. I was not well, and I was just felt under the weather all the time.
But you went to this squash camp, and the gentleman says this one thing that shifts your mindset.
Yeah,
he says you've got great hand-to-eye coordination.
Yeah.
And then says you can be world champion.
Yeah, because no one had ever given me such a compliment. And no one had put a seed in my mind of, wow, a big dream, a world champion. And I liked this ball game. It didn't like the running, but I liked hitting the ball. It was like it was my wand. It was my wand. And it was a stage. It was a stage for me to shine, to come out. I was a very, very quiet. I was painfully shy. I'd hardly say 2 words. I come from a big family, 8 siblings, always noisy. And I was the quiet one in the corner. And my mum thought there was something wrong with me because I was so quiet. But this, straight away, it just gelled with me that this was a stage for me, and I enjoyed it. And it just lit me up inside. It lit me up inside. So I did what my coach said. I had to sweep the courts and clean the toilets to get court time, but I did everything he said. I never questioned him. He was a visionary coach, actually. He was a visionary coach. He taught me how to coach whilst he was coaching me. And I just started winning championships. I started to win state titles. I started to travel. I won the Australian Junior Championship at 17 years of age, 4 years after I had begun playing a sport that, no way was it on my radar. But so, I was good.
What was the average age? What was the average age?
Well, it was all under 19, so there's no age divisions like there is now in squash. Okay. So at 13, I was playing 18-year-old, so I was under 19 for juniors, and I can remember playing an under 23 championship. That was after juniors, that little gap before hitting the senior ranks, but yes. I was already playing adults as a junior. So, and this is my first year. At 13, I played in this under 23 tournament. I was crushed. The scores were 9 points a game. I didn't get 1 point the whole game. I came off. I had a bit of a cry for about 2 minutes. And then I went, that will never, ever happen to me again. Ever. Will I be crushed like that?
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. So you have your moment of grief.
Yeah.
And then you take the time to regroup and to solidify in your mind that what just happened will never happen again.
Exactly. And I didn't just solidify it in my mind. It was in my heart and in my body. It was in every cell of my body. Big difference.
Okay, so then what's the takeaway from just that? When we talk about solidifying in our mind, heart, and our body, okay, for individuals that need to understand what that means in terms of achieving things and accomplishing things, okay, how can we help individuals? What's a good way of making them understand that this is what they're, irrespective of whether it's sports or whatever they're doing? And
whatever it is, you're in sync. You're in sync. And you're going to do whatever it takes because you're actually in flow state. And you know what you're doing is just going to get you there. It's going to take you there. It's going to help you grow, expand, and evolve.
Yes.
In sync. And you're in sync with the universe, God, whatever you want to call that, infinite intelligence, that energy, that quantum, in sync with the energy. I floated on the court. I was like on autopilot already. I was playing squash intuitively. I was letting it come from a higher source.
It's really amazing. There are studies. In fact, I am not going to try to butcher the guy's name. Okay. But I will tell you this. He actually wrote the literal book on flow state that has changed the way, biogenetics and functionality, the fields of functionality and biogenetics, looks at life, looks at the idea of human achievement, personal achievement.
Yeah.
And all of us have felt that moment. I know that for myself, many times when I'm doing my speaking engagements, okay, it's a totally different situation. People that know me, they know that I can be engaging, and but generally I can be a bit more introverted and just not there, but not out there per se.
Yes.
However, when I'm on the platform, when I'm talking with individuals,
Yes.
there's a different energy there.
Yes.
Or when I'm engaged in a work that I'm trying to accomplish, and I know that I need to get it done, there's the energy there. Even when it comes to working things out, we have a couple of events coming up, and my sourcing those events, sourcing the vendors, being in the state of interviewing and working with them, there's a totally different energy. And I think even now, because I'm getting it from you, I think we've got what's called a feedback loop going here.
Yeah.
Our
Yeah.
discussion. So
It's awesome.
so that's a wonderful thing. Now, there were times though when you experienced setbacks in terms of your health. Could you please sort of talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah.
And a gentleman never inquires of a lady her youth. So if that's something that you want to disclose and just let everybody know, because we want people to understand she is of age to drink, folks. So after the show, we're sending her a case of Chateau number 45, 1922, and that's why she's old enough to do that. So if you want to share that.
I have no problem, because no one can ever believe that I'm really this young. It's my 64th birthday in a month.
Wow.
Yeah, 64 young.
Yes. Yes.
You're as old as you feel and think. It's as simple as that.
The idea I would suggest is that one thing that you do is you play. And the old saying is, we don't stop playing because we've grown old. We grow old because we've stopped playing.
Yes.
And I've seen so many individuals who have the mindset of, oh, I'm sick and I can't. And, I have this illness and I just can't do this. The doctor told me if I move. But there are so many people out there, very much like you, that have done wonders with their bodies. Okay, Sean Stevenson comes to mind right away. I don't know if you know him. He's a fitness and nutrition expert. He has his own podcast, YouTube channel, as well as several books out: Eat Smarter, Sleep Smarter, and the Eat Smarter Family Cookbook. All of excellent stuff. And this gentleman comes from a place where he was diagnosed with the spine of an 80-year-old at the age of 17, 18 years old.
Yeah.
But through food and determination, this man was able to change his body to the extent where, instead of running with a broken hip, which happened to him in his later teens, he's actually healed, and he trains other individuals in terms of fitness and health, and now teaches the importance of these things. So, then there's Joe Dispenza. I don't know if you heard of him, but
I love Joe Dispenza.
Yeah. Another man who's healed himself from a spinal injury. So talk to us about your mindset and the health issues that you've experienced.
Well, after I won the Australian, and I wanted to go to the British Junior Open, because at that stage I didn't know that any other Australian had gone over there. So that was like a Wimbledon of squash. So my sponsor, Adidas, I was the first junior player and squash player to be sponsored by Adidas, said, "What do you want for winning?" And I said, I want to go win the British Junior. I need an air ticket. Here you are. So I went over in the dead of winter, just before Christmas, by myself, as 17-year-old, got to England, started training, and I won the British Junior. And I played a couple of senior events. I got to the second round of the British Open, the senior one. I played in a World Open. I got to the second round, again as a junior, which is phenomenal. But I picked up an infection under my arm. It was like the size of a tennis ball. I had to go to the doctors every day and get it drained. Bottom line is, it triggered my asthma big time, because infections. It was one of my big triggers for asthma, as well as exercise-induced asthma. I pretty much had all the triggers for asthma. So when I went home, I couldn't play squash. I was put in hospital 8 times that year. They put me on the steroids into the vein, and I was pretty much became dependent on the drugs to be alive. So I gave up squash. I put on a lot of weight. I'm only about 94 pounds now. So I put on twice, double that. And it wasn't pretty. So I was, in and out of hospital, feeling a bit sorry for myself. And then when the doctor said, you've got to give up squash because it's going to kill you. And I went, it really knocked me to the floor. It shook me to my bones. And again, another decision. I just went, no. I've just become #1 junior in the world. No way. No, this is not going to stop me. It's not. And I made another decision. No, I just wouldn't accept it. Simple as that. I wouldn't accept it. So slowly but surely, I got back on the court. I got, I trained hard. I slimmed down, got really, really fit. I was back into it. That was 2 years after leaving juniors. My first year back, it was okay, but my second year back made the quarterfinals of the Australian Open. Then I went to the British Open, the Senior Open, and I lost every round of every tournament I played prior to that. And again, I lost every round. Instead of giving up, I just went, okay, all these experiences, all these matches, they're helping me get better. Simple as that. And so I wasn't deterred by losing every first round match. I got to the British Open. I wasn't seeded, and I beat a seed. Oh, sweet. Beat another seed. Oh, sweet. Beat another seed. Sweet. Quarterfinal of the British Open. I was back. I was on my way. And then, I was chugging along, still had to have the nebulizer and lots of drugs. I carried a suitcase full of drugs everywhere I played. And then 26, I got a disc protrusion. I had to have my spine fused when I was 29. It was the nerve, the disc was pressing on the sciatic nerve. I could hardly walk. So at 29, very young, I had my spine fused. I was very fortunate that, I didn't end up, in a wheelchair. And I didn't end up not being able to go back to squash because I said to the doctor, I had 8 opinions, in a couple in England and a few in Australia. They all said, no, you'll never go back to squash again. But this one doctor in Sydney, where I come from in Australia, said, if it's successful, you can do what you want. If it's not, it was successful. I went back to squash. And then, there were like more chest infections, more pneumonias, again, lots of respiratory issues. And then there was, injuries, just niggling injuries. And then as I was, saying, okay, I'm going to semi-retire now at about 30, still played a World Open, and after I tore my hamstring. And then a couple of years later, my asthma was getting bad again. No amount of medication was holding it. I was nebulizing every hour and a lot of heavy steroids, anti-inflammatories, a lot. This is how I was breathing. That's how I was breathing. And obviously I couldn't, I stopped playing squash, I stopped training. And then this breathing technique had hit Australia. The Iron Curtain had just come down. And these people were all over the news. It was making headlines. This miracle cure, this breathing cure from Russia. What? And my mum said, we're going to this free talk because you're going to die otherwise. And so we went to this free talk. These 2 Russian people were, it's all about the breathing. You got to learn how to breathe properly. And they took a couple of measurements. I booked into the course, $400 for 4 days. First day, oh my God, they told me I had to breathe less and start breathing through my nose and hold my breath. I'm going, what? And in the 3rd day, huge shift, huge. Wow. 4th, the asthma, life-threatening no more. Took another 1.5 years of constant exercises, of breathing exercises, of being very vigilant about only nose breathing, taping up my mouth at night to sleep because I was a heavy snorer, 7 sinus operations. But a year and a half later, came off the steroids, came off the nebulizer, reduced the drugs, miracle. And I was in the newspaper, all over the news, because obviously my squash background. You were the worst asthmatic athlete in Australia. How can you beat asthma? Just through breathing. And I went, I did. And then, some other niggling injuries, my disc started to, just degenerate more, some more injuries. I had my, so I was going along, 30s, I was still playing good squash, late 30s playing good squash, not so many tournaments, but keeping up with the young folk. At 46 years of age, I went into the Australian closed, beat 3 of the top 20 players in Australia, all half my age. Year after that, I had my hips replaced. And they went south. I got metal poisoning. I got metallosis. I ended up having septicemia, blood poisoning, because I got infected. And so I was in Colombia coaching. I had 2 emergencies. I literally was paralyzed for 3 weeks. And I did make it home. I got home to my doctor. I've never seen anyone so like, you're death walking. And she said to me, how are you still alive? With all the stuff that's happened to you, you should be dead.
Not the thing you want to hear from a doctor that's supposed to get you well.
But you know why? But she was like, but this doctor was awesome. She was like me, a bit of an outlier.
Mm.
And she said it from a good heart. And because I'd already known this doctor, because after I had my hips replaced, I had to have a lot of pain management, because, as I said, metallosis. It was tough because I was walking with a cane. It was tough. It was really, and the pain out of 20. And when I was paralyzed, I was just putting myself to sleep with drug painkillers just so I could numb out, so I couldn't feel the pain. But so I went back into hospital. I had emergency surgery again. They did what they needed to do, drain the infection. I was 3 weeks in intensive care, and they put a spacer in, so I was metal on metal. Another 3 months where I was in agony, so that I went back in to have a bilateral hip replacement. I did them both at once. I said, I'm not going through this again. But I was forewarned because I had already experienced a bilateral before, so I knew what to expect. Mm-hmm. So I prepared mentally, emotionally, and physically. I recorded some meditations for myself, and in between that, I did a spiritual modality called theta healing, all about going into a theta brainwave having direct access to your subconscious and identifying beliefs that are limiting you, illnesses, why you've created these illnesses, why you've created these injuries, because I believe you create everything that happens in your life for a reason to learn from. And this, between the potato breathing technique, the breathing course, and theta healing, profound shifts mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. So I practiced what I was being taught, this spiritual healing, the breathing, getting my mind clear, bringing my nervous system into, that switching the parasympathetic nervous system on for relaxation. And I was meditating, not long meditations, 20 minutes. And I was actually visualizing me having a successful operation, whilst I was in hospital recovering, I was actually doing a meditation of being in the gym and training, being on the squash court and training, creative visualization in a theta brainwave state, direct access to your subconscious. Subconscious doesn't know fact from fiction. It believed what I was mentally rehearsing. When I got out of the hospital 6 weeks later, 2 months later, I was hitting on the squash court, getting on the bike, and I got fitter faster because I was doing my mental and emotional work, my rehab.
Wow.
And that's how I've gotten. And then After that, it's cruising along fine. A lot of pain management still, though, because you can imagine, they've dislocated my hip, again, both of them.
Wow.
When was it? 2016. So 2009 were the first lot of hip replacements. I didn't get my second lot of hip replacements till 2017, but prior to that, I had my first heart attack on the squash court. And I just went, what the?
Heart attack.
Heart attack. And I just couldn't talk. And I'm going, and I keeled over, hand on my heart going. I'm trying to tell my partner I'm not, because he could see I'm keeled over and I'm going, I couldn't talk. And my measure of me being in a bad state is if I can't speak. That was my signal to pick my family and friends. For asthma, if I can't speak, you've got to get me to a hospital. So stupidly, I didn't stop. I just waited until it subsided. Crazy. And I went to the hospital and they said, oh, just a bit of angina. I said, no. This is more than angina. It feels different. Oh, no, it's the asthma. I said, no, it's not asthma. So I went to a cardiologist and he put me on, did a stress test. Oh, no, it's just angina. I went, no, mate. Doctor, this is not angina. So I came over to the States. So I was doing some squash camps and little Benones. So I got back and I went back to my GP and I said, there's something weird going on. She sends me to this top cardiologist in Australia. I'm in there having this week of tests. I go back to get the results of all the tests. He says, have a seat. I went, first thing he said, do you have private health insurance? And I went, I knew what he was going to say. So I just burst out crying. And he said, you've got a 75% blockage. And the next time you have a heart attack, you'll either die or you'll be a vegetable. And after the tears, I said, oh, I'm so glad that we caught it in time then. Just to name a few things.
Caught it in time.
And so they put a stent in, didn't have to have bypass. They just put a quick stent in there, not a problem. I'm back on the squash court, getting fitter than ever. Sweet. And, I monitor every year. It's fine. And actually just before all of that too, I was in a very high pressure stress job. I was the CEO of the Squash Estate Association, and I was actually being sexually harassed by my employer and bullying, and like mob bullying, pack bullying. So I had to take them to the anti-discrimination board. But the stress, actually, this is the heart. The doctor said, "You're fit." He said the stress of your work situation has brought on these heart attacks, the stress of it. So stress, to me, is the disease of the 21st century. It brought on my heart attacks, and it brought on PTSD as well.
I can tell you something. That's one of the reasons why I've included the de-stress part of my program with clients, because I'm finding that many of my clients who are trying to reverse or lower their glucose, they may eat well, okay? Yes. They may try to do some sort of exercise, but their glucose is not coming down. I started looking at their life and saying, well, number one, how well are you sleeping? And they say, oh, I'm sleeping great. I said, what do you do to go to sleep? Oh, I'm listening to my tapes, and I go and they're playing. I did my music while I'm sleeping, and then I said, and then what else? What else is going on? How are you doing? Oh, well, I have this issue at work. I'm worried about my boss. She's always on me, and she's picking. Okay, or they'll say, oh, my kids, they're driving me nuts. I'm worried, and don't talk about the grandkids coming in with their babies and everything else. So I have to now reassess that. And one of the things I've done is I've started to work with them, and either individually or in groups, and getting them out into the forest, getting them out into the park, getting them in an area where we can do some breath work, do some grounding,
absolutely,
do things like that to de-stress.
Absolutely.
Then we look at their sleep and try to say the one with the thing in the sleep. I explain to them, your brain is still awake while you have
Mm,
that on.
that's right.
And your cortisol levels are still high
Like
while
it.
you have that on.
That's
And
right.
so let's try to do some breath work exercise,
Mm,
breathing exercise before,
yeah.
and maybe grab something to read that is soothing to
Yeah.
you. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Good.
many times, like for myself, it'll be the Bible.
Yeah.
And they'll read something and they sleep. And then they check their glucose
Mm,
and it has lowered significantly
absolutely.
just in one night.
Yeah.
So,
Breathing.
you know,
Breathing is the key feedback loop for the nervous system.
that's what I want to talk to you about. I'm glad you mentioned that. Let's circle back to that.
Yeah.
What is the name of the technique that you
The
learned?
Buteyko breathing technique, Buteyko.
Botico.
Buteyko. This is why I teach it, and this is why I became I've been a breathing coach for 34 years now. Before it was trendy,
Yeah, yeah.
and a mindset coach before it was trendy.
So tell us more about this. What does the person do and how do they do
Yeah,
it?
Buteyko found that it's the natural breathing instrument of the body is the nose. It's got a filtration system at the back. It is where nitric oxide is produced, which is a vasodilator and also strengthens the immune system. When you breathe through your nose into your core, not just your belly, but the belly is a good place to start, especially if you're a chest breather. So you're just breathing in through the nose, not big breaths, and normally at a rate of that you have a normal breathing rate, which is ideally about 8 to 12 breaths per minute. For brain and heart coherence, the breath rate per minute is 6 breaths per minute. And you can do that by breathing, like 4 to 6, hold for 2, or 6 and 8, 6 breaths, 6 seconds in, 8 seconds out. You at rest, we all have a natural breathing rhythm. It's like, a surf wave, a wave. Boom, boom. We hold at the bottom, a natural hold with our breath out. Then we take a breath in through the nose. What's happening through the nose? The chest very little oxygenation occurs in the upper lobe of the lungs. The chest is the cavity that holds the lungs. So you're breathing in through the nose with the diaphragm, which just sits on the belly, just under the ribs. That's your major breathing muscle with the intercostals. That's why you're breathing into your core, even your back. So you bring the oxygen with that nitric oxide down into the lower lobes of your lungs where oxygenation occurs in the alveoli. Pretty simple. That's where it happens. So here we have the reason why everything's in and out through the nose. You don't want to blow off too much CO2, which is the releaser of the oxygen from the hemoglobin in the blood cell. And that oxygen is released from the blood cell to go into all the tissues and the other cells and to every part of your body. And importantly, to your brain. And if you're a sports person, to your working muscles. So that brilliant, really high oxygenated blood, really rich oxygenated blood. And 25% of the body's oxygen needs go to the brain. So, when you've got brain fog and stuff like that, firstly, I'd be seeing if the person's a mouth breather. Secondly, watching that, can I hear them? Can I see them? I observe people to see what they're doing. Normally I can hear them. Breathing should not be seen or heard or is not laboured. But that oxygen-rich blood to your brain clarity, creativity, you can make really good decisions when you have clear mind. So breathing, I'm writing a book about breathing for the layperson, affecting every part of your body, and then obviously a bit with the sports people, for sports people, because I've experimented on myself with all kinds of breathing rhythms. And what I have found after 30 years, as well as a natural resting breathing rhythm, you have a natural, like I'll say, my training breathing rhythm. It's a rhythm.
Mhm.
And I don't get tired. I don't get tired like my opponent. I can go for it. And I'm 64. I'm still getting my heart rate up to 180 with a stent in. And I'm recovering like phenomenally. Because I'm still playing Masters events. I'm training up for the US Masters and the British Masters and the Australian Masters and next year's World Masters. So
Amazing.
breathing, when you understand breathing and knowing what your body needs in regards to anything actually. And the other thing about that, Henry, is we've got a breathing center in the medulla, in the stem of our brain. It's our thermostat, our breathing thermostat. When you're a mouth breather, you offset it. It goes out of whack. So you've got look. I've measured people's breathing rate, like some 28, and I'm going, oh my goodness gracious. So we've got
Should
to
it be?
reset this breathing center, and by these breath holding exercises, does it.
What should it be? If it's 28 is terrible, what should it be?
Terrible. It should be about, if you're if you're resting doing nothing, about 12, 14 is okay. Doing nothing. Obviously, if you're active, it increases proportionately, but it comes right down when you rest back. Like I'm getting up to 180, and then as soon as I rested after 5 minutes, it's right back down to about 60. My pulse rate, my breathing rate. I've measured my breathing rate when I'm training, when I'm sprinting. I've actually measured it. So I know what breathing rate I have when I'm training. This is
How does
very
one measure their breath rate or breathing rate?
easy peasy. All you do is stopwatch, good old stopwatch, breathe in. So all you need to do, okay, get someone to do it for you, it's easy. You click the watch and just count the number of breaths you take. One cycle of breath is in and out. Don't change it, just relax and breathe in and out. How many times do you do that in a minute? The other measurement that is now in vogue, when I was doing the Buteyko breathing technique, it was called the control pause. Breathe in, breathe out, and hold your breath. You're taking an oxygen and CO2 level. There are CO2 levels. Now it's called the BOLT score, blood oxygen level test. That was renamed in 2015.
So you breathe in and hold your breath, or you breathe out and hold
Breathe out, all the way out,
the
and then
exhale.
hold your breath. A lot of people hold their breath. Box breathing is okay for a short period of time, but you don't want to do that all the time. It's the body's natural breathing rhythm is in, out, hold for about a second or two. In, out, hold for a second or two. Okay, just breathe with me. I'm just going to say, okay, when you're ready, just breathe in for 4, 3, 2, 1. Out. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in. 4, 3, 2, 1. Out. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. In. 4, 3, 2, 1. Out. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Do 5 of those. That's going to bring your pulse, your blood pressure, your breathing rate down, and it's going to switch on your parasympathetic nervous system and calm you.
I feel completely different just in those few seconds.
That's
I really do. So I'm going to tell you, folks, if you're listening now, this is a lady I will be consulting directly very soon, okay? Because, I'm all about breath work as well. We do that when we are out in the sunlight, but she is the aficionado here within this space of Crush Your Mountain. Tell us now, Alex, what's next for you? You are a squash champion.
Yes.
And now you are also a breathwork coach, a mindset coach. But now, what's next for you in terms of what you want to do?
I want to get in front. I want to get in front of people. I've just published a collaborative book with 13 other authors. It's gone Amazon bestseller. I'm writing my own book, but I want to help people. My whole life purpose is to help people with my energy, with my experience and knowledge, help people, help themselves to be the best they can be at whatever they want to do, but have the best quality life. And it's about, I am an inspirational speaker. I'm a motivational speaker. I'm a high performance squash coach, but more so, I love squash. I love it. It's in my blood and I'll never stop. But to get in front of tens of thousands of people, that's my big dream. Because when I can speak to people, I can help them shift their energy for the better. But helping them, teach them how to do it, reconnect with their own inner strength, reconnect with that spark that's in them, that's in all of us. And for some, it's just gone out. But it's a spark that is innate in us because we're part of that spark that created the universe and the stars and the moon and everything else.
Well, it's been amazing. I'm glad my fire extinguisher is right over here because you have just set my studio on fire with your energy. I'm so grateful just to have this time to talk with you. You're just an absolute joy and pleasure to have with us, and we look forward to talking with you again. But until that time, I've got one question I ask all guests.
Yes.
I'm really grateful for you to be with us today. So please, would you mind telling us this?
Yeah.
Alexia Clonda, what does it mean to you to crush your mountain?
I'm alive. And I'm not just surviving, I'm thriving. And that spark, I just thrive. I thrive on just being alive, but really being alive. Not just, going from day to day and, I'm on fire. I crush my mountain because I'm still here when everybody else said I should be dead.
Wow. I'll tell you why that's particularly powerful today, because a good friend of mine who was in my wedding almost 34 years ago,
Wow.
he died today.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I'm 10 years older than he is.
Yeah.
Was.
Yeah.
He leaves behind a beautiful wife.
Yeah.
Just 10 handsome, powerful sons.
Mm.
And for now, they can't be with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so I love the idea of taking that time to celebrate your being alive and being on fire. And doing the things that you need to do.
Absolutely. I think if everyone just woke up and said, thank you, I'm alive, and really felt that from their core, it would shift their energy for the day. And if you kept on doing that, mountains can be moved.
Well, we're going to do exactly that. And I have to thank you again. Now, where can we find you and learn more about your incredible life and story? Do you have a website?
I do, but I'm just reconstructing that at the moment. But
Tell you what.
An easy peasy mindbreathingedge@gmail.com. Nice and easy.
We'll get it to you. Good deal. Well, my dear, again, thanks again. And folks, hey, do your breath work. But more importantly, remember that it is your mind and your focus that can bring you in sync with your whole body and being. And you can do whatever you need to do to keep yourself well, healthy, and prosperous as much as you can on this side of Armageddon. But be determined not to let it take you down. Make your doctor your partner in your health, but you take it by the horns and you do what you need to do to get better. And like I always say at the end of the show, don't just climb your mountain, crush through it. And we'll see you next time. Alex, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Henry.
And we're done. How do you feel?